Hey everyone, Dr. Josh Handt here. We are live in New York and the UK at the same time. We have an amazing guest today. Her name is Angela. She's had a really cool background, which has led her into a world of natural health and performance. So, Angela, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me here, Josh.
I'm
It's great to be here.
Yes, it is great. I'm actually very excited to have you here. Can you give the audience a little bit of your background, because your past is very different than where you are now?
Yeah, for sure. And it's been a bit of a journey. So I started life as a corporate finance lawyer, working really long hours in London, all nights, weekends. And then I guess in my 20s, like most people, I felt pretty invincible and that I could do anything. And I was pushing, ahead with the partnership track and made that. And then I went on to have my 3 kids. That was all pretty close together. Had 3 kids in 4 years, and
Wow.
that really took its toll on me. So I I basically ended up pretty burnt out, and it ended up with me suffering with postpartum depression a few times, which got, pretty bad over time. I think each time, if any of your listeners, have had depression, the problem is it becomes more entrenched over time. And that certainly happened with me. And eventually I was put on bipolar medication and kind of told that I'd be on those meds the rest of my life.
Wow.
And then my immune system took a hit. And that's when I ended up hospitalized with double pneumonia, viral and bacteria, fighting for my life. That all happened quite suddenly.
Yeah.
And that was the turning point. So they always say, don't they, you've kind of got to hit rock bottom before things get better. And I guess that happened with me.
Yeah, that sounded like bottom right there. In the hospital, double pneumonia. That's
Yeah, it was testing time. So they actually thought when they took me in originally that I had lung cancer. So it was all pretty serious, and I was having scans, and then it turned out to be pneumonia. But essentially, that was that was the turning point. So initially it started for me turning my own life around. And I think where I'd been depressed, I'd had thoughts of ending my life so many times that it then felt ironic that I was now fighting for my life in hospital. But there was a moment of peace. It sounds really woo-woo, but there was a moment of peace for me. And I thought, actually, I really want to be a part of my children's lives. I really want to be there for them as they grow. And so when I came out, fortunately, I pretty much made a full recovery. I do have some asthma, infection-induced asthma. I pretty much made a full recovery. And so then it was kind of a journey of how can I get back to optimal health? And then as I dove more into that with different techniques, kind of some science with some holistic techniques, then I started helping other people, and then it kind of grew from there. And I guess my mission now is really to help as many people as I can.
Yeah, that's great. I love hearing stories where people. I don't actually love hearing their problem, but it's so great to see when people have these health challenges, when people have, whether it's mental, physical, emotional challenges, they can hit that bottom, like you said, and use that as a rebound point versus let's just stay down here and hang out. Like, so you chose to make that leap, which is very powerful. And now as a coach, as a someone that lives in the natural health world, what do you do with people? What do you do with individuals, and what do you do with yourself to keep yourself going?
So one of the biggest things for me, obviously, with that background has been mindset and kind of getting my mind in order. I remember a therapist saying to me, you're not in control of your mind. And I was like, what? Like, what does that mean? My mind was just my mind for so many years. And then I realized that, okay, that actually meant something. So I did a lot of work, a lot of therapy over the years. And then I got really into meditation as well, and breath work. And I do that with clients, but also I got into kind of the science of genetics and how that affects things. And really it's a full, very holistic solutions is what I offer in terms of getting your sleep right, getting your nutrition right, your exercise right, and your managing stress and mindset and developing resilience, essentially. So all of those things combined, which I think really starts to optimize you as a better human.
I like that, a better human. So let's talk a few things. So you mentioned, DNA, genetics, working with people. What type of things do you see happening, or what are you doing with clients like that? Because I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, so really what I'm looking at is for optimizing their nutrition. First of all, you can learn a lot from someone's genetics. So particularly in regulating their blood sugar, in finding out how well their systems detoxify and their own kind of antioxidant production. You know, we get antioxidants from our food, but our bodies also produce those ourselves. So you can look at their baseline level, how they tolerate things like saturated fats, how they process caffeine, a whole host of information that helps me to put together a plan for them that's really bio-individual and is designed to enhance their energy while minimize their risk of chronic disease as far as we can.
That's awesome. And I know along with this, our pre-conversation talking about different types of breathing for performance and breathing for health, because as we know, oxygen is an essential, I won't say a nutrient, but a molecule, something that we need in our life. And during this crazy time that we're living in, we're seeing people they're stressed more than ever. They're breathing shallow. They are wearing masks. They are doing lots of things that are impeding a natural process, let alone looking into performance. So I know you're in the UK. Things have shifted a little different. You said outside the city. What are things that you teach, or what are things that you're teaching now that may be different, just for simple breathing techniques before we get into the high performers version?
Yeah, so in terms of simple techniques, as you say, most people are shallow breathing and they're also over breathing. And a lot of people are mouth breathing, which is one of the biggest mistakes. So even if you think about taking a deep breath in, if you take a deep breath in, and people watching or listening can do this through their nose, and they put their hand over their belly, they're going to be more likely to be diaphragmatically breathing, so breathing correctly. And actually your belly should go out as you breathe in, which is the opposite to somebody who's stressed. They kind of suck in from the chest area, and things go in on the in-breath. And actually, as soon as you start mouth breathing, you're much more likely, if you take a deep breath through your nose, your belly will go out. But if you actually try and take a deep breath through your mouth, you notice I'm already it's very upper chest breathing. And that really just instigates the fight or flight response immediately. So a lot of people don't realize that there's this double feedback mechanism going on where they're not breathing correctly. And now they've engaged the fight or flight mechanism. So they're almost compounding that stress. So one of the first things is actually to try as much as you can to breathe through your nose. And people find it difficult initially, and they might feel like they have allergies. It gets better over time. You can experiment with micropore mouth taping, so where you actually tape over your mouth to stop it. I don't know if you've ever done that.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought you would have. And that obviously is helpful for stopping you taking sneaky breaths through the mouth. And some people, do actually sleep with it because it can really help to regulate. But essentially, the breath is the access to the parasympathetic nervous system. So it's the unconscious side of things that is the rest and digest. But we can also actively control our breath. So it's something that we have power over, or we can ignore as well. And so the fact that we can do both gives us an entry point. And that's really what we're trying to do, is to use the breath to calm our nervous system down.
Yeah, so step one, everyone, pay attention, is breathing in through this thing, through your nose. And the mouth taping is something that's very interesting. I interviewed a holistic dentist. His name is Dr. Stephen Lin. And when we were talking about the parasympathetic nervous system and things like this, he mentioned taping your mouth. And I thought it was the most wild thing, hearing tape my mouth closed when I go to sleep. That doesn't even make any sense. And, I trained myself to now sleep, at least to my best of my knowledge, with my mouth closed. It took a little bit of work, and he also recommended don't use, a very strong adhesive tape like duct tape, or, use something that's gentle so you're not taking your lips and your, if you have any facial hair, ripping that off at the same time. So it's something that's actually pretty powerful to try. Just the simple nose breathing and consciously doing it will help you become an unconscious nose breather.
Absolutely. And actually it's better for mouth bacteria as well. So, and the nose is a great filter. So particularly now, we were talking, weren't we, about before we jumped on, about COVID and infection rates. And actually your nose is your best defense. If you're mouth breathing, there's no filter. It's just going straight into the lungs. Whereas the nose is helping to filter, and it's also helping to get your the air around you to the right temperature. So in colder climates, and as we move back into winter, when we think there might be second waves of this, actually it's going to benefit you in that sense as well.
Yeah, use your schnoz, people. It's important. So,
yes.
So let's.
It's there for a reason.
Exactly, it is there for a reason. So we have our basic breath is going to be that people can attempt to do or give the taping a shot. You can definitely do it. It feels weird, but it's something that'll force you if you have a challenge, and you're like, I don't know if I can do it. Just get the tape, give it a shot. So now that we have nose breathing, belly breathing, firing the parasympathetics, what's the next level or the next step?
So the next step is then to try to actively control your breath. And I'd say the next two simplest ones to use is either something called box breathing or the 4-7-8 breathing. So those are both simple places to start. So in box breathing, all you're doing is breathing in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4, and you're gaining control. And that will actually start to calm your nervous system. Then the other thing you can do is the 4-7-8. So you breathe in for 4, you're holding for a bit longer for 7, and then you're doing more of a whoosh exhale. So you're kind of like on a long exhalation. You can even sort of hum as you do it, like the yogis do. And again, that helps to engage the parasympathetic nervous system. So that helps. Breathing through your nose, certainly on the in-breath. I mean, ideally, if you look at the Buteyko breathing method, which was developed by a Russian scientist, then you're breathing in and out through the nose. But certainly breathing in through the nose is going to help with nitric oxide levels, which helps to also lower blood pressure, which is really important. So that would be the first things I would say to go to. And then beyond that, we can then, and I know you've talked about this on podcasts before, but you can also do what's known as the Wim Hof breathing method, which is a bit more advanced and very different. And that actually, in this sense, what we're doing is we're not so much activating the parasympathetic nervous system, you are over time, but we're actually inducing what's known as hormetic stress or hormesis. So this is a mild dose of stress to actually help the body become stronger. And that's one of the advantages of doing that.
Yeah. So and everybody, you can actually Google Wim Hof and get all of those details. We're not going to go deep into that today. That's a whole other experience. So we mentioned the box breathing, the 4-7-8 breathing. What was the third one we said with the Russian scientist?
So the Buteyko breathing method, which is that's where you're getting used to breathing in and out through the nose, and that's controlling your breath. So you can do something, the control pause method. So what you can do here is, for those that are familiar with Wim Hof, they'll know that you do a breath hold at the end of this rhythmic breathing. With the Buteyko method, really what you're doing is just to sit comfortably and kind of relax for 10 minutes if you can first, and then you breathe in normally through your nose and then out again through your mouth, through your nose, and then you just do a breath hold. So no sharp intake of breath or long exhalation, just a normal one, and then you hold. And the reason for this is to work out your control pause period. And what the science shows is that if you can, when I say control pause, what I mean here is not how long can you hold that breath with resistance, but when do you start twitching and get what's known as air hunger? So it's that first desire to breathe. The point at which you get that, you've reached the end of that control pause period. You shouldn't then finish that pause and suddenly have to go, we're going to take a big intake of breath. It should still allow you to be controlled. If it's less than sort of 20-25, then you probably are pretty sympathetically engaged. And even there may be some breathing issues like asthma, for example. So you want to really get that control pause up to around 30-40. And then if you can even get that higher, up to levels of 60, then you're really optimized. But that's kind of at the top end. So there's always a progression to go to.
That's interesting, and I'm glad you mentioned that if you're going to do this, you said it's on an exhale to hold, or an inhale?
Yes.
Yeah. So
on an exhale.
So when we're doing this exhale hold, and if people are not able to get to that 30-second mark, if they're underneath that, they're in that sympathetic range, which ultimately means your body's in an internalized stress state, everyone. I know we've mentioned this in the past, but this is important to pay attention to, because when your body is in that sympathetic state, it's not in it's not going to want to be in the healing state, which makes your body more vulnerable to everything, right? So it's like we're not running from a lion or a tiger or away from a car or a taxi cab that running as we're crossing a street. We shouldn't be living in that stress when we're sitting breathing.
Yeah, right? That's absolutely right.
So we really need to really pay attention. And while you're home, this in the States here, the holiday weekend, this is something you can practice, minutes a day, 4, 5, 10, 15 minutes a day, before you go out and play, this is a great way just to let your body have I want to say a detox, but a stress detox, so you can enjoy yourself more.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some great, if you look at Patrick McKeown, who wrote The Oxygen Advantage, it's a great book. I'm actually interviewing him on my podcast next week.
Oh, great.
He has some amazing videos on there on how to help with asthma, how to use the Buteyko method. And if you follow those, what you'll find is that you should be able to get that control pause increased by about 5 seconds in sort of a week's time. So that is really definitely something to work on. And as you say, then it's helping people to relax.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then there's another form of breathing if you want to cover one more.
Yeah, let's go.
Time. So this is alternate nostril breathing. And this one actually is also designed to help you relax. And if you've done yoga classes and things, you may have actually done some of this. But essentially, it helps you to connect the right and the left hemispheres of the brain as well. So it really helps with creative thinking and connecting that right and left brain. And if we're too left brain dominant, again, we're too sympathetically engaged. So you want a nice balance of both. And alternate nostril breathing is one of the ways that you can do that.
So give an example, like what is it? Because I know people are saying alternate nostril. Like we have to try to breathe in one side of the versus the other, or they're actually holding our nose.
So you are holding your nose, and what you're doing is you're kind of taking your middle and your forefinger and putting them at the top here for those that can watch. So it's going in between my eyes.
Yeah.
And then your thumb is on your right nostril if you're right-handed, and your ring finger on your left, and you kind of hold like that. Exactly. And then you press in on the right, and you breathe in through the left, and then you release and go out through the right, and then you go back in through the right and release, and you can do a small hold at the top and then back out through the left. And that really helps to engage the right and left side of the brain, and it's actually very calming. You can do that while walking in nature as well.
Yeah, that's one I have not done. I will do that one today, before my run, when I'm sitting in the car right before. I think I'll give that a shot. What would be a good time to do that for? How long would be a beginner's version?
A beginner's version, even if you can just do kind of 5-6 breaths like that would be good.
Okay, so as simple as that.
Start small, yeah. Okay. And actually for the running, this concept of nasal breathing is really good. Like what you can find is, because what we're doing here is through nasally breathing, a lot of people are over breathing. And so they're not actually getting as much oxygen to their tissues. And that's because where they're over breathing, their carbon dioxide tolerance is much less. So by doing the nasal breathing, sometimes people, when they're exercising, they actually have to really slow down the pace at which they're running, because otherwise they start to mouth breathing. But over time, using that Buteyko method, you can actually really help to fully oxygenate your tissues, which is going to make your running performance that much better.
Oh, there we go, everyone.
Slow down.
More oxygen is going to be good for us athletic people that are running or playing a sport. So Buteyko, we said, is the name. Buteyko breathing. Look it up.
Breathing, yeah. And Patrick McKeown's got some good videos on it.
Okay, that's really good. So along with the breathing, I'm just curious if your answer is probably going to be yes, but heart rate variability.
Yeah, so heart rate variability, all of these things will start to give you improvements in your heart rate variability if you're tracking it. I think, are you wearing an Aura as well? Did I see? Yeah. So I do the same. And I track mine at night. And definitely breathing is going to help with that. And also just switching off. I've noticed simple things have been affecting my heart rate variability at night. Like, for example, because I'm like you, I'm so passionate about, always upgrading my learning and more and reading things. I was actually always reading stuff that was relevant to my practice at night. And then I took at the beginning of lockdown, we kind of had a bit of a competition in our house with the kids about reading Harry Potter. And even just that simple switch to fiction helped to improve my heart rate variability. So
that's great. That's great.
Yeah, crazy things.
Yeah, so I wanted to share this with you, because you mentioned meditation, breath work, a lot of the things that you're working with your clients. And I've been an on and off meditator for a very long time. I interviewed Dawson Church yesterday, and I'm not sure if you've heard of him.
I haven't come across him.
Okay, so if you Google him, you'll see where he's, I don't want to say a disciple of Joe Dispenza, but he's in the same world as Joe Dispenza. He's a scientist, but he's been teaching EFT tapping, breath work, meditation for almost 40 years at this point. But when I was speaking to him, I was at 90, or not yesterday, a couple days ago, like 90 days straight of meditation, which has been amazing. And I think I'm at 92, 93 today when I checked. Things really start to change. And the reason I'm bringing this up, I have worked also with a woman named Emily Fletcher, who's
Oh,
also a
yes.
meditation, guru, if you will. And I started doing her work and wearing the Aura Ring around the same time. And as I started to do these double day meditations, I've had my heart rate variability jump, which for those that are paying attention, heart rate variability is a really great indicator of, I want to say, internal overall health. It's a really good thing. It means you're having it's called sympathetic or autonomic tone, meaning your body's in a very good balance between that fight or flight and the rest and digest. And for someone that uses an Aura Ring, I was having spikes during meditation. I would go from the early morning would be around 100. I would have some over 200
Oh, wow.
spikes during meditation, at 5:30 in the morning. And I actually shared this with Emily because she's like, they're quantifying the power of meditation, through neuroscience and now through technology is pretty neat. And she was blown away that it was jumping so much during meditation, which is a really good indicator that meditation is insanely powerful for the whole body.
Yeah, it is amazing. So you've been following Emily's technique twice a day, have you? Because I haven't. That's something that I haven't yet
Not all the
managed to get a
time.
good streak on.
I
But
did, I
twice
did,
a day
I
is a
did, I
lot.
did, I did like a 21-day thing
Okay.
I believe, with her 2 a day. I was with Joe Dispenza, a very good close friend, for years on and off. My excuse was time, I didn't have enough time. And so now I've been doing anywhere between 10 to 30 minutes every single day, but it's usually once a day in the morning is
Yeah.
my go-to.
And is that a guided Joe Dispenza meditation that you're doing, or
No,
what are you
I'm
doing in the
actually
morning?
using Emily's technique,
Okay.
which
The
is
3M
the
technique.
3M technique,
Yeah.
and it's I'm just quiet. That's I'm not listening. I love the guided meditation if I have time in my office on a weekday at lunchtime. A lot of times I'll just throw in one of his shorter, like 26, 27, 28-minute meditations that are guided that I can just recharge for the afternoon. I'll do that.
It's amazing, isn't it? And it does
Yeah.
actually really recharge your energy. So on the 3M technique, presumably you've picked out your own mantra, because I know that for a beginner, Emily always says
Yeah.
use the mantra one, and
Yeah.
then as you get more advanced, you kind of pick your own one.
Well, I've been through her whole course, live, virtual,
Oh wow.
everything. So I actually was given a mantra.
Okay.
Yeah, through like the whole
Awesome.
meditation technique. Yeah, it was pretty neat. It's
Yeah,
pretty neat.
very cool.
So I mean, everybody, I know we're kind of having our own little conversation here, but this is all for you, because when we look at overall health, and Angela talks about health performance, and being a coach for people that are looking to better themselves, both in their health, but maybe even as an athlete, maybe as I can say a high performing mom with kids that's like overly busy and overly stressed. The techniques we're talking about, meditation, all these different breath techniques, they're all essential. I mean, they're almost foundational before you even may want to change everything else, because it's something you can do right now. You don't need necessarily a guide to do the breath work. So we're giving you the advance notice to do something for yourself now, so then you can connect with Angela and actually start to dive deeper into the things that are actually that will build on top of the breath work. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And the breath is completely free, and it helps you
yeah.
sleep better. And as soon as you start sleeping better as well, everything is better and easier.
Yeah, which is so
So
cool. And we're getting we have a couple of comments, and people are like, holy cow, I'm a chest breather. I'm not a belly breather. Those things are showing up. So
yeah.
I think people are really going to get a lot out of this conversation. So what are the best ways for people to connect with you?
So they can connect with me. I'm pretty active on Instagram, Angela S. Foster, over there. I'm on that a lot. I am on Facebook, as you know, Angela
Uh-huh.
Foster Performance. They can also, my podcast is the High Performance Health Podcast. My website is Angela Foster Performance. So pretty much any way they can find me, reach out to me, and let's connect. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw that in the comments, and when this actually goes live on iTunes, it'll be in the show notes for everybody, all of the contacts and the details. And we'll mention in there as well we'll drop in there some of the different breathing techniques that we have spoken about, because you should look some of these up. And if you can't remember, just re-listen to this. This is not, hours and hours long. This is a simple way to go back and forth and learn some of the simple techniques before you may want to jump into like a Wim Hof technique. That's a whole different world. Simple first, right? Like
Absolutely.
I did a Facebook Live yesterday, and I spoke about setting these huge goals. So if someone is a chest breather and like, I want to be a Wim Hof breather tomorrow, you're going to miss a lot of the opportunity and a lot of the learning experience along the way, which would actually get you to that goal of doing that type of breath work. So start small, get your wins early, but then it makes it easier to progress, because then you're going to connect with Angela. Then you're going to connect with all of these people that are going to be able to help you keep leveling up your life and health. So Angela, I want to thank you. This has been a really cool and fun conversation. I know the audience is definitely going to love this, right now on Facebook. It'll be on YouTube soon, and also through iTunes and everywhere podcasts are found. This is a phenomenal way. And for those of you that may be hearing this when it's on iTunes or in the podcast world, come back and find the video so you can see some of the things we're showing with the breath work. So Angela, thank you again so much. Coming to us from the UK, taking the time out of your Friday to do this. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's been my absolute pleasure.